Bitrise has open source at its core, but it also provides a public API which you can use and create your own open source extras and extensions to Bitrise. Many people have already done that and created useful tools that extend the functionality that Bitrise provides. We've talked to some people in our community about their open source projects, and the following video is an interview with Jazz, who has created a mobile app that accesses the Bitrise API to allow you to see your builds and even access the artifacts from your builds. We had a chat with him in the following video. So this is a Bitrise video, part of our Bitrise user group series. Today we have a guest, Jazz from Transpire. Bitrise is following with interest where people are writing open source tools to extend what Bitrise does. So Jazz will be talking about Bitrise Wall today. And first, let me introduce Jazz from Transpire, but also here on this call is myself, Kevin Toms. I am a developer advocate, and Motaz is also on the call, who's also a developer advocate from Bitrise. So Jazz, just as an intro, tell us a little bit about your background, your career, and how you got to Bitrise.
Yeah, sure thing. Hey everyone, I'm Jashwant. I'm from Melbourne, and I work at a company called Transpire, which is basically a mobile app agency. So I came to Melbourne for my master's, did my master's in software engineering. And then since then, for the past 8 years, I've been working in the mobile space. I started as an Android developer initially. And then like a few years ago, I transitioned into a test automation engineer specializing in mobile. And we use it to download, to run builds, obviously, and to share the builds with the clients and also within the team, within the QA team. And we also run the tests on Bitrise, which in turn uses Firebase for Android. And we just use the iOS emulators to run it on, run for the iOS ones. That's pretty much it on what I do and how I work.
How did you get the idea, or maybe if why did you create it from the beginning? And maybe you can describe a little bit about this project.
Sure. So I've used the different types of CI tools before. So I started with Jenkins maybe 5 years ago, and slowly started to explore other tools. So I even worked with Build Kite for a while. One of my colleagues introduced me to Azure DevOps, and also we started exploring some of the stuff, and that's when Bitrise started gaining some traction. And when we started using it in my previous company, it was pretty good, because the best part about it, which we were trying to figure out initially, was how to sign iOS apps. That was the hardest bit of all. Okay. And then when Bitrise had this code signing feature where it would just run that code signing doc, once you run that, you just automatically have the signing docs uploaded to Bitrise, and you just don't worry about code signing ever after. So that was the best selling feature for us. And since then, I've been using Bitrise, and I've been just also recommending it to all my clients as well. So every client project we use also, in turn uses Bitrise. So that's how I started using Bitrise. But then eventually, after we started using it, one of my my mentors, Kelly Watson, who's my lead right now as well. So what she recommended was to have a picture of what the status of the current builds are. So because we work on multiple apps, so it's always hard to keep track of which ones, passing, which ones failing, because as a test team, we have to keep track of all that, and we also want to know what the state of the tests are. So we came up with a small tool to actually look at all the build status of each and every app, and if the last build was failing or passing, so we can chase it up. And that eventuated into like a mobile app, where we can just essentially do the same thing. We can just quickly check the state of the different Bitrise apps running. But the best part about that was we could eventually use the same app to download the builds as well. So right now, if you want to download a particular build, we have a Slack integration, which would give you the link to the particular build. So we either have to be logged in on Slack all the time in the device, or we have to send that link one way or the other. or we could use the QR code scanner, which we've been using for a few years now, which was just, the Slack message will have the particular QR code and you would scan it to actually install that build. That's been working fine, but if you have to find a particular build, you just need to comb through a lot of Slack messages or just have to go to the portal and find the particular build you want. So that's when we were, hoping to do this something ourselves, because we've been having experience with the Bitrise API. That's the starting point of this app. All it does is just pretty simple. It just allows you to look at a particular build, look at the build logs, or even download an artifact directly on your phone. So you can have this on your test device, or the client can have it in their test devices, so they can just use their particular build that they wanted and use it. So this is basic. Before I start, I also want to say that the one thing that I was trying to make is to make it look as similar as possible in both Android and iOS. So that way, when we share with the clients, they can have the similar experience in both Android and iOS, so that they don't feel confused. So what you'll see in this video is the left side is the iOS one and the right side is the Android one. And basically the first part is just where you log in. So right now Bitrise allows you to use this APIs using the API keys only. So you have to paste that for first time. Once you do that, the apps would automatically store it internally, and then you can start using it. So this is my iOS app, one of the iOS apps that's running on Bitrise, my personal account, and you can click on the artifacts to look at all the artifacts of that particular build, or you can look at the logs of that particular build. So this one was a bit tough as well, because you need to handle all like a huge log in a text view. So that was a bit challenging when I was writing it. But so that's all working fine now. And so I'll show you quickly an example of how to actually download the build. It's not much fancy. It will just take you to the particular link directly, instead of having to find it through Slack message or through the build itself. So for example, this one is the Android build. You can directly take you to that particular page and download it. And the left side one is the iOS one. So this particular device is not registered, but you get the idea. There's a download button there. Once it's registered, you can just start opening it and start using it right away. So that's pretty much what the app does. So if you go back to the app, you can see that the artifacts are there and the logs are there. So it's just allows you to go to a particular build, any build, and straight away download it. Whereas if I had to do this on Slack, I have to let's say I want to install the first ever build, I have to go back to the portal or go back to the Slack messages and find what the build is and all that. But that's the concept, and it's working now. I'm using it in my internal team.
I can see how that's really useful. And one of the nice things there is it's an app. So you haven't got to go to your computer. You can use it wherever you are. People will generally have their phone with them, but they don't always have their laptop. And you don't need to log into the Bitrise, Bitrise itself to look at it. You're just connecting through the API. So I
was just trying to replicate what Testflight does, to be honest, the iOS Testflight app. But we don't want it to publish it to Testflight every now and then. We just want to use the Bitrise infrastructure to help us install it. That's just a mini version of what Testflight does.
I also I think you solved different problems here. So for example, if you wanted to send this APK or the IBA to your QA team or the product managers to check the features and the applications, so just see they can download the application and just they can go to the build. If it's succeeded, for example, so they can just download it on their devices and start testing it or explore the features. And also you are getting the second issue that I'm seeing here, that you are you directly the test you can say the status of the builds directly. You need to log into the website even if you are outside in the company or you are in your laptop. So you can check the statuses. But can you maybe just briefly tell us about the implementation steps behind these projects? How did you start it? Is this like a personal, or you are working with different colleagues in your company?
Yeah. So this one was just a personal project that was just working during the weekends and sometime during the evening when I got time. But in terms of implementation, it was because I had quite a bit of knowledge on the Bitrise API, because I used it for my scripts in other areas where I had to like just look at the status of it or something like that. So I knew what Bitrise API could do, and then when I started it, I was just trying to do some very basic elements where it's just basically a login screen followed by a list view. And then from there, you can go on to the particular build page. And also I was trying to follow what Bitrise API provided me. So the API would give me a list of apps first. And then with that, you can go into the list of builds next. And then from there, you can actually go into an artifact or the log endpoints. And yeah, that way I was able to structure it based on the API also. And so that's, in terms of implementation, pretty straightforward. And and I tried to do, and also I was also I'm a bit curious about how SwiftUI was working, because that was when SwiftUI was released. So I tried to do that to do the implementation using SwiftUI and see how it worked as well. So it turned out as a win-win for both scenarios. I was able to get what I wanted, but also learn something new as well.
Okay, great. I just have one more question about for the bills that you are displaying. It's related to a specific date, or it's current date, or today, for example, or you can get the list of all the bills.
Yeah, it's paginated. It can go to the first very build itself. So
okay.
It's again, the Bitrise API allows pagination as well. So I try to make use of that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
But you're actually showing the latest build first.
Oh yeah, that's right. The sort of in order.
Reverse order. Yeah. One question I have about the implementation. So it was a SwiftUI. So they're basically two native implementations in Android. Yeah. Okay.
So because in our team, we try to do, because as a test team, we tend to do a lot of testing on our native platforms. That's one of the reasons that I joined, the testing team as well, because initially we tried to do it with Appium, and that was working, but it wasn't as flexible as it is. We wanted to do some when we test some of the features, we want to have that native component in our hands where you can set up the app to a particular way. For example, if I want to test a particular screen, I should be able to skip login and skip onboarding and just go right to that page. If you want that level of control, you should do your testing on your native frameworks. So our team specializes in like Espresso and XUI tests, just because that you have that level of control. And that's why I'm a little bit well versed on both Android and iOS, and not using the combined platform. But we started using React Native a little bit now that the market is heading that way a little bit. But I like native platforms personally, because I come from that background as well. A little bit biased, but still.
It's a bit more work to know two platforms, but you do get the most control and the optimum each platform. I've got a couple of questions about, you used the Bitrise API. I'm interested, did you find that, it sounds like you're pretty familiar with it anyway, but you found it easy to use generally? What about documentation and things like that?
It was pretty straightforward. I didn't have any issues. The only thing I would have expected was the login component. So you can only log in with API. I'm not sure if it was possible to provide a user-based auth where you can log in as yourself, because especially when you want to have a mobile one, it would be much better if there was like some sort of social login, how you actually would log in with Bitrise.
What made you decide to make it an open source project rather than just your own?
So one thing was that there was actually like a couple of other projects similar to what I was doing. One was on Android, one was on iOS. So, but what I was trying to do was to have like have an app which would allow you to have the same UI. So when someone's using it, they wouldn't feel like, oh, this is a different app on iOS and this was different on Android. So that was something I was trying to do. But at the same time, I was trying to to get people to get involved and add features to it rather than having them to actually do it all over again. So it's just like, I feel like it was a waste of time and effort for someone else who's trying to solve the same problem. Instead, they could be, adding features to it and providing more collaboration in there. So that was something I was trying to encourage and see if we can get people on board to, add features to it rather than reinventing it.
Yeah, it does mean that you're in a position of curating that. But then you get the benefit of the effort of other people and their ideas as well. So it's good. And you also did something else which was interesting. You decided to create on GitHub a curated list of other open source projects. What prompted you to do that?
Yeah, to be honest, there were quite a few really good projects out there, and I found it because I was doing this for a while now. I've been looking for projects and tools that could help me, use Bitrise much more efficiently. So I knew that there were these projects, but for someone who's just starting out in Bitrise, they might find it harder. So I thought I must just provide that forum where people can just have a look at all the other stuff that people are working on, and provide that list, because I've seen so for example, one of the projects I follow is that a list of Android add-ons that was really helpful. So there are actually projects that just about curating the list of open source projects for a particular platform, and I found that really helpful instead of having to go to multiple sources and find your own way. There's one markup that I'll quickly share my screen, just 1 second. So for example, if you look at this screen on top here, so that's one of the apps that one of our open source projects. So that's just a list of all the latest builds, and if they're passed or failed. It's called Bitbot, and I use it as part of my day-to-day because it's just one click, you get to know if your build has passed or not. So things like that have been really helpful for me. So I thought, why not just provide that to others as well to see, what other things can be done as part of this.
Well, I think that's a great demo, Jazz, actually, and gave us a real insight into what you've created there. I think also it's definitely a useful app on iOS and Android, and I hope it continues to evolve and other people collaborate with you on that. So thank you for your time and deminating that. Really appreciate it. And I want to make a point. If anybody is watching this and say, hey, I've done something, maybe I should tell them, we're easily contactable. You can either, contact us at Bitrise at Twitter, on Twitter, or just through the bitrise.io website. There's channels of communication there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you so much. Thank you.